meetings as providing for in the order. A reminder that people who would like to listen to the meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Conference ID 597-285-87 or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or hearing or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Sam. All right, now, as I said, we'll do a roll call of the members who are present, and we'll be reviewing the applications this afternoon. We have Darcy Sequin, our vice chair.
Darcy Sequin is here.
Our clerk, Sam Stribert.
Sam Stribert is here.
Regular member, Bob Burns.
Burns is here.
Okay, Doug Grattan is not here. Regular member, Doug Grattan. Our first alternate, Steve DeBoer.
Steve DeBoer is here.
And our second alternate, Tim Moore.
Tim Gilmore is here.
All right, we do have a quorum, folks. I have taken the liberty of moving the agenda around slightly. We're going to do the signs first, and then we'll do 23-045, 85, 859 Main Street as the last application.
There's a new agenda amended. You have that one?
I got it.
That's the new one.
I got that one.
Also, while we're waiting, I should mention that we have our Central Permitting Coordinator, Sarah Clark, and Chantel Kilkenny. The Community Development Administrative Assistant is also with us. All right, Sam?
Don't we do the minutes?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, do the minutes first. And those are of May 17th. Thank you, Sam. Is there any comments?
I have no comments.
All right, Bob, you
I'll
want to?
make a motion to approve the minutes from May 17th, 2023.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
The motion's been made and seconded. All right, Steve,
I vote to approve.
Darcy,
Darcy Sequin votes to approve.
Sam,
Sam Stribert votes to
Bob?
approve.
Burns votes to approve.
Doug, not Doug, I'm sorry. Tim Gilmore,
Tim Gilmore votes to approve.
and Dan Silva votes to approve as well. All right. now-
Okay, now we're back to the signs here.
Yes.
23-068, Mermaids on Main, care of Tara Owen. Application to install a roof sign on the structure located at 1583 Main Street. And the Central Permitting Coordinator has written that the proposed sign complies with the sign bylaw.
Very good. Good afternoon, sir. If you'll introduce yourself, we'll be on our way.
Good afternoon. I am not Tara Owen. My name is Walter Kane, and I'm one of the owners of Mermaids on Main. This sign was previously approved 26 years ago. I don't know if any of you were still on the committee at that time. But our sign looks great. We've already had a temporary and put it up on the building. It looks fabulous. We've already had 7 or 8 customers come in saying that they recognize the sign from down on Main Street and came in just for that very reason. Citing that, so.
Sir, is the green light on your speaker? on
Yes,
both
it
of
is.
them?
I can't hear you.
My name is Walter Kane.
Speaker closer.
I would like to get approval on this sign. It was previously approved 26 years ago at 410 Main Street, Chatham. We've now have moved our business to 1583 Main Street, Chatham, in the Shop Ahoy Plaza. It is one of the smallest signs. It is the smallest sign in the plaza. And like I stated, we've already had 7 or 8 customers come in. We've been open 2 weekends now and have done very well. But we've already had 7 or 8 customers come in saying that they recognize the sign. And that's why they come in to patronize the business, that they had been customers for years downtown. So would like seek approval. Same colors, same thing. It's the exact same sign that I took down in the building there.
All righty.
That's me
No.
there.
All right. I don't know if video staff can improve the quality of the mic, but, all right.
Maybe you
Let's,
should try the other mic.
My name is Walter Kane.
That's good, okay. We got it, it's okay.
All righty. Steve?
No, I don't have any questions. I noticed that the sign was already installed. Is that its final installation location?
That is
where it
its
now?
final installation location.
And I didn't notice any lights or anything around.
There's no lighting at this point. We're going to maybe readdress it next year. We'll see how, we got this laid about 5-6 weeks ago when we took over the lease. Got the lease about 5-6 ago, so we're still putting it all together.
Very good. All right, I have no other questions. Thanks.
Darcy?
I have no questions. I think we previously approved this down at near 400 Main there, so, yeah, I'm good with it.
Sam?
The angle brackets you show don't have a pitch to, they're going to be bent.
Yes, I bent them and I pitched them at a 22-degree angle, which the roof going back so that the sign is perpendicular.
I have no further questions.
Okay, Bob?
I have no questions.
Okay, Tim?
No questions.
And I have no questions either. All right, Bob?
Under signs, I'll make a motion to approve 23-068 Mermaids on Main, care of Tara Owen. Application to install a roof sign on the structure located at 1583 Main Street.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
Okay, motion has remained and seconded. Ready, folks? Steve?
Steve DeBoer votes to approve.
Darcy?
Darcy Sequin votes to approve.
Sam?
Sam Strawbridge votes to approve.
Bob Burns votes to approve.
Jim?
Tim Gilmore votes to approve.
Dan Silver approved. Very good, thank you. Sam, moving on.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
You could say that, do you have another one?
No.
No? Okay.
Applicant, number 23-70, Rockland Trust, care of Poyant Signs. Application to install a wall sign on the structure located at 649 Main Street. And the sign coordinator, the central permitting coordinator has written that the proposed sign complies with the sign bylaw.
Thank you, Sam. Can you introduce yourself, folks?
Absolutely. Good evening, Stephen Carroll, I work with Rockland Trust.
Thank you.
And good evening, Jason Fredette with Poyant Signs. And I have some color samples, if you'd like, I can hand them out.
For those of you who are not familiar, we don't allow speaking during this process.
Thank you.
Get our
You
own
can just
little,
pass them all along if you want, if it's easier. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to save you some time. Thank you.
It is. Thank you.
Need these back when you're done?
No, you can keep them.
Okay. Fancy.
Okay, I guess it's obvious what goes where, huh?
Great, so we are here this evening to discuss the exterior sign for the Rockland Trust ATM at 649 Main. It's a non-illuminated wood carved sign, basically, where the border and the Rockland Trust ATM letters are raised and the background is recessed in or carved into the sign. It's 10 inch by 4 foot, and that soffit basically is a 10.5 inch flat soffit. So,
Okay, we're discussing the wall sign first, so that's,
yes.
all right, very good. All right, Steve?
No, I don't think I have any questions. I think you explained it well. Thank you.
Darcy?
No questions.
Sam?
so this is a wall sign, but it's the one that's going on the fascia of the beam.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And I suppose this replicates the sign on the main bank to a certain degree. The colors are the same,
The colors are the same, definitely.
but is the sign got a little bite out of the corners or anything like that?
So the corners will be scalloped
On the bank, on the sign on the
on
bank?
this new sign. On the old bank sign, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, I apologize, I don't know. But the only difference is that this location is ATM, there's an ATM there now that opened up a couple weeks ago. And there's a couple offices that are in the back for commercial lender or investment management professional. So I don't know, the other sign that was on the bank that closed a couple months ago might have said Rockland Trust Bank or Banking, so this just says Rockland Trust ATM.
I see. Okay, I have no more questions.
Bob?
No further questions. Looks good.
Tim?
No further questions.
And I have no questions.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay, under signs, 23-070 Rockland Trust, care of Poyant Signs, applications to install a wall sign on the structure located at 649 Main Street.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
The motion is made and seconded. Steve?
Steve DeBoer votes to approve.
Darcy?
Darcy Sequin votes to approve.
Sam?
Sam Stryber votes to approve.
Bob?
Burns votes to approve.
Tim?
Tim Gilmore votes to approve.
And Dan Silva votes to approve as well. All right, Sam.
Okay, we have the central, I gotta read it first. Application 2371, Rockland Trust, care of Poyant Signs, application to install a wall sign on the front door of the structure located at 649 Main Street.
All right, and if you gentlemen will introduce yourself again. The reason for that is if you look it up, this is being recorded, so if you look it up, it goes by the number of the application.
Perfect.
Yep, Stephen Carroll from Rockland Trust.
And my name is
Mr.
Jason
Chairman.
Fredette with Point Signs.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to state
Oh, I'm
that,
sorry. That's right.
state that the Central Permitting Coordinator has written that the proposed sign complies with the sign bylaw and the H.B.D.C. sign guidelines and procedures.
Very good. Okay, if you can tell us a little bit about this one?
Absolutely. So this is a vinyl graphic that's applied directly to the glass. There was a question about this overall size of the glass and the relationship of the graphic to the glass. The glass is 30.5 inches by 66.25 inches, and which is 14 square feet. And I believe the code allows 10% of that, which would be 1.4 square feet. And the Rockland Trust is 0.694 square feet, and the 24-hour ATM text is 0.372 square feet. So basically, it's 1.06 square feet. So we should be in compliance with the 10% ratio for the glass. It's applied directly to the front, and it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Steve?
No, I don't have any questions. This looks like it's being applied to there's like a storm door or something there, and then there's a 9-light door behind it or something. It kind of looks that way.
It's a glass door.
It's just
Yeah.
an old glass door?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. There's a ATM card reader to the right of the door that you have to feed your ATM card in to pop the door open. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I guess in the picture that you provided here, the handout, it looks like, did you replace the door recently?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
The door was
Yes.
replaced,
Gotcha. Okay.
yes.
Okay, then that's it. Thank you.
All right, Darcy?
I have no questions.
Sam?
No questions.
Bob?
No questions.
Tim?
No questions.
And Dan Silva has no questions.
Under signs, 23-071 Rockland Trust, care of Poyant Signs, application to install a wall sign on the front door of the structure located at 649 Main Street.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Steve?
Steve DeBoer votes to approve.
Darcy?
Darcy Sequin votes to approve.
Sam?
Sam Stryber approves.
Bob?
Burns approves.
Tim?
Tim Gilmore approves.
Dan Silva approves as well. Thank you.
Great.
One-
Thank you.
Okay, Sam, next one?
Yes, we have 23-72 Rockland Trust, care of Poyant Signs, application to install a wall sign on the structure located at 649 Main Street. And the Central Permitting Coordinator has written that the proposed wall sign requires approval from the Sign Code Appeals Committee under Section 225-19 of the sign bylaw. section 225-4 is a wall sign, one wall sign per established business for each street frontage, not exceeding a total of 10% of that building face, including the window area, but not to exceed 3 feet in height. Advertising only the business carried on and/or services and products made or sold on the premises.
Thank you, Sam. Steve?
I guess my only ask about this is that maybe, I realize that these are your logo colors, but maybe that they could be reversed, because it sort of looks like a very bold sign for a small area. Just wondering if you would consider making it a white background with the blue letters instead.
That would work for us, honestly. Yep.
Okay, then that's the only ask that I have. Other than that, it's fine. Kind of matches the sign on the front.
Thank you, Steve. Darcy?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I agree with Steve.
Okay.
Sam?
Did they get a chance to explain why they're asking for this sign?
No, they didn't. You folks want to introduce yourself again? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Sure. Stephen
That's
Carroll
right.
from Rockland Trust.
And Jason Fredette from Point Signs. So to answer your question on the purpose of this sign, as you come around the rotary and approach, right on the side of the building is basically, you can see, and it helps identify that there is an ATM at the corner of that building. So that was the thought behind that sign being there. And it doesn't have the Rockland Trust name on it, really, because we looked at it as more of an informational, almost like a directional sign for the public, that there's an ATM there.
Okay. Do you want to comment about reversing the colors?
No, I'm happy for that.
Okay. Bob?
It's more legible.
I guess my comment is, I think it looks a little bit out of place on the side, and is that fair to the other people in that building?
I don't know.
They could shrink it down to 1 square foot
And
and
not have to
be
come
done
before
with it,
us.
you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important informational sign, connects them back to their former place of business. Somebody coming to deal with the bank and finds that the bank didn't get the memo and looks around for a way to cash a check or to do whatever they will have to do. They see the ATM sign and it calls them to investigate. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it.
Bob, do you have any further comments?
No.
Okay. Tim?
Again, I would tend to agree. I think it's a little much. It may detract from the other businesses. I think the current room as proposed lights up. You've got the Rockland Trust. You're going to see that location. If you're looking for an ATM, I think it's going to be very apparent what that is. I think the ATM sign, the way I look at that corner, it kind of dominates it, even in the white colors, I think, with blue. But again, I think you definitely need to tone down the color scheme, but I don't think we need that sign. I don't think the business needs the sign there already with the signage currently in the area. I don't want it to dominate that corner of the building.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I think about it, just with your comment, it's got nothing to do with the sign, is, we can't deny them having a sign there if it meets all the regulations. We can determine what color they can have. So I think I would stick to whether you want the color reversed. I don't think we can deny a sign there, right, Sarah? It's meeting all the requirements.
So they do have to go to sign code appeals, zoning board of appeals, because this sign does not face a street frontage. So they need additional approvals if they were to receive a permit for this sign.
A question, if other owners or renters in there came forward and said, I want to put my sign on the side, could they go forward to the
They would also need sign code appeals.
sign code? Okay.
Can I offer a suggestion, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
I'm happy to withdraw this one without prejudice, if that's going to be an issue. I don't want, I'm on committees in my own town, and I know all about precedent, so we certainly don't want this to become the norm down there. Our only thing was just directional in the fact that the space that we opened up was directly next to the branch that we closed. And you're right, that people going there, that they can see that and say, oh, there's the Rockland Trust machine. So we're happy to shrink it, but I'm also happy to withdraw it if it's,
I don't think you should do that. I mean, it has, you have a rationale for, it. You're not just trying to attract attention. There's a rationale because of your former location. And the white lettering on the blue is consistent with your previous signs. I think it recalls whatever signage was on the bank originally. So I support your thoughts on this.
and again, I know we need obviously other relief besides this committee and other approvals. So
Of course.
You know, so.
Yeah, I just agree with Steve. I think reversing the colors would help make it disappear, but whatever you want to do. Bob, do you want, make a motion just to
Okay, I'll
open
make a
to it?
motion on 23-072 Rockland Trust, care of Poynt Signs, application to install a wall sign on the structure located at 649 Main Street with the provision of reversing the colors.
All right.
Is that?
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Steve?
Well,
You can still have further discussion on it.
yeah.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
I mean, he did, I'm not really convinced that it's necessary to have that sign there, because I think you'll, as you do come around the rotary, you'll see that. And it is sort of setting a precedent,
No.
and like, there's no other businesses that ever applied to put anything there. I'm not convinced that it's totally necessary, but if everyone votes that it's okay, I would be more comfortable if the colors were reversed.
Darcy?
I'm going to follow Steve's lead. I agree with him.
Sam?
No.
Okay, Bob?
I'm a no.
Tim?
No.
Well, okay. It's the first time you'll hear this, but it's about the 20th time the rest of, I promised myself when I got here as chairman that I'd always go with a more restrictive vote, so I would have to vote no on this. I actually expect a sign like that to be in a window, but I think it's most commonplace for it, but anyways,
Well, it is on their doors and everything. So.
yeah. So, guess not. If you want to come, you're welcome to come back in 2 weeks with another.
No, that's fine. I totally respect and understand your thinking on that. And we would, again, it was really the fact, I think if the branch was a mile away, we probably wouldn't look to do that. But the fact that it literally was right next door was the reason why we were proposing that. So understand and respect your decision on that.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So does he want to withdraw it then? So do we have to vote on a withdrawal if he's going to withdraw it?
Do we have to vote on a withdrawal? No, we had a no vote, right? It wasn't,
No?
So there were 3 of the members in opposition to the sign, so it would be denied.
Okay.
that's why I say you come back in 2 weeks if he wants, right?
Well, that was the vote. You voted 2 in favor, Darcy and Steve in favor with the colors reversed, 3 in opposition to the sign, therefore the sign was denied.
So he can't come back, right?
Right.
It's done.
You would have to,
Done, yeah.
you would have to apply
Right.
again if you
Right.
wanted to install.
I forgot about Steve and Darcy, I'm sorry.
Well,
It's not the first time. But I thank you very much for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Really
Appreciate it.
great.
Thank you
Have a
very
good night.
much. Have a great night.
So there's no determination on this.
no, they take it
The
down.
vote we took was a no vote,
Yep.
so. Goodbye.
So they take it down, right?
Well, I could make a motion that we accept their application as presented.
We already voted it,
We already did it.
we already voted it down.
Voted it down, Sam.
You can't make another motion
You
to,
voted it down with a specific condition. You didn't vote it down, you didn't vote this motion down. Anyway,
Do it again.
everybody seems to be happy.
Well, we know it wasn't gonna pass with the blue. So, I mean, they come back and won't pass with the blue, so.
You know, I think they were cowed a little bit by the fact that they have to go to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah,
So
I would be too.
this is what,
Sarah, looks like you have something to say.
So that hearing is closed, so any further discussion on the application
Right.
shouldn't go forward, so we can hopefully move on to the next application.
All right, let's move on to the big one.
what's next? Pam?
well, we're going back to 23-0, no, we're going,
Mr. Riley and Jeff.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, Jeff.
It's Joe.
Yeah, Joe, not Jeff. Jeff, is out in the hall. Yeah,
JFF, yeah,
but this is Joe.
he's my cousin.
You got it, Sam?
I'd like to read the agenda, 23-54, 859 Main Street LLC, care of JFF Design. Application to renovate the existing structure located at 859 Main Street.
Okay, so could you put our plan up on the screen, please?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
All right, thanks.
So you have a big packet for us, and I see there's some, what do we have,
I know,
choices?
but let me save you the trouble of reading it.
All right,
Everybody in favor, vote yes. All right, so,
This pasta's getting cold.
yeah, I was just telling Joe, I spent the 40 minutes before I got here trying to keep my power from being shut off. I'm dealing with some cloud in Eversource who says, if you don't make a payment right now, we're going to shut the power off. I said, I paid my bill. Well, I know, but we're having a problem with the system. And 30% or 20% of our clients are having problems with their bills. I said, so you're going to shut my power off when 30% of the people are having problems with their bills? They called today, we're going to shut your power off in 15 minutes if you don't make a payment. So that's my day.
You didn't pay, I hope.
No, so you go down to CVS,
Oh, no.
you go down to CVS, and they give you a barcode, and you make the payment. I said, okay, so I run down to CVS,
Oh, Bill.
they get the barcode, hand them my credit card. Oh, no, it's a cash payment, you have to pay it in cash. So that's my day so far. Anyway, so what we did is we have made some changes. We thought a lot about what the board said. We did away with the sign of the wave over the door. But we are sticking with the bracket protection. We thought about a porch. The porch didn't work because then you need columns to support the porch, and that would interfere with our outdoor seating and the servers trying to serve the outdoor seating. So we're back to the brackets. We've checked the windows. We think the windows are virtually identical to Delmar, which is, as you know, right next door practically. I know, some members didn't like the lighting because they thought it was too modern. But if you look at Delmar, they have very similar lighting there. And we think the lighting is kind of insignificant when you look at the face of the building. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe. Joe will give you a more in-depth explanation, but that's sort of where we are right now.
You just did my whole presentation.
Okay.
Thank you again for allowing us to represent. So as Bill mentioned, he kind of touched upon some of the bullet points. We initially looked at what we could do to sum up, to kind of tone down the front from the reactions that we got out of the board last month. And we did take a look at the porch design. The unfortunate thing, and actually, Chantal, if you can go to number 9, please. One up from that. Right there, perfect. Click that. So one of the things that the porch does is it really takes the building out of balance. Because the precedents that we use and the two buildings in particular that the board mentioned for precedent was the Max building and also CVS. The problem that we have in terms of utilizing this, not only are the columns disruptive to the alfresco dining that we have, it also impacts accessibility because the sidewalks, the patio space isn't wide enough to accommodate columns, tables, accessible route, and access to some of our outdoor services, our service window, et cetera. So, and if we extend the columns out to the end of the patio, then the roof becomes too shallow, then it really looks kind of off balance and strange. So one of the things that, Bill, I'm just gonna back you up 1 second. One of the things that, you guys changed the typo. One of the things that we notice on Max and also CVS is we have a gable end there, and that allows that to come up into more balance because you have a greater portion of structure above that. When you look at our building, because the gables on either end, we have this long expansive roof, the porch roof actually devalues the space. It takes the entire building out of context, out of balance. It's just, so not only on a serviceability is it hard pressed, but also from a design standpoint, it's hard pressed. So that's why we went back to the canopy design. On the canopy, and actually if you wouldn't, oops. Excuse me, on the canopy, we had that wave element that I think everybody agreed that they really didn't care for. It was out of touch with what we were trying to do right here. So what we did was we eliminated that, and then we used the synthesis of the canopy around the 3 sides of the building. So that was the element that we took out. We feel that the entry will be defined enough without an additional element, so we decided to take that out. But then we also looked at our lighting. So as Bill alluded to, the fixture that everybody, some board members didn't care for, again, it's a low splay type light fixture. It's a wall wash, so you're really not going to get any spillage outside of basically the brick facade. But there is precedent when you start looking at the light fixture that's at Del Mar. This fixture here is really the same modern style. So I didn't think we were really going out of precedent that far. And I would actually argue that this one has a little bit more of a splay to it than ours will. As you can see the actual photo, and then our next, this plan right here, number 7. So what we did in a rendering, we actually showed what the splash looks like against our building in this area. So this is actually the extent of the splay according to the manufacturer's data that we have. This is the impact it's going to have on the building, and really nothing outside of the building. And it's really a low profile element. The linear light that we have, that actually defines either side of the door opening, and it's even though the image that we showed last time was in context of a modern style building, and I agree, in that context, it really does look modern. This is intended to be mounted directly onto the wood trim, the mullions of the between the door and the window. So again, it's a real low profile. It has a low hue to it. So I don't think it's going to be too disruptive. to the building face, but it's going to offer a nice subtle entry definition. We also looked at the proportionality of the windows, and if you see that we actually have, we did a precedent study within the town just to look at all the various picture windows that we have here throughout the town. And I would argue that this one right here, even though it's painted, ours is intended to be natural. It's a direct reference to what we're doing here. So I didn't think that the comments that we received with respect to the windows was too far off of what the town recognizes and actually has. If we want to go to number 8, please. So the next thing we did was we started looking at the frieze. And I do agree that the frieze that we presented last time was too large. Oftentimes, we won't get into that much the design development detail at this stage until we kind of go through our next stages in terms of architectural design development. So we took the opportunity at this point to tone that down quite a bit and then offer this profile of what our frieze is going to look like. And I think you'll see that this is much more in keeping with what you would expect, you would anticipate. Certainly much more in keeping with what we want to present as well. So this is a series of crown moldings, excuse me, and then the fascia piece, and then we have another crown molding that steps down into this band, and this actually is the brick. So from here, really to the OG for the gutter is our frieze element. So it's really toned down quite a bit from what we presented last time. And I also, I offered other details for the porch if you want to go into that, but I think all your booklets, you have all the information we have here, so if you have further questions, just let me know, please.
Anybody like to start? No? Well, I'll start again. The last time I made a comment when we started the review of this, and I just want you to know that I wasn't just saying it to be nasty, but Chantel, do you have those pictures that I sent you? When you put up? This picture was of Wendy's, and it's got, one of the reasons I sent it to Chantel is because it has the overhang, not the same as yours, but if you just take portions of that away, you'll have the same thing that you're proposing. On top of that, it shows the full height and width of all the windows that are in the building. This is typical of all the fast food restaurants here on the Cape and nationwide. Chantel, do you have the other one? This, I don't think we need to say anything more about. We have the curve that it isn't painted green, it's painted yellow in this particular case. If you look closely on here, I don't know if you see on the left-hand side of that building, it has the overhang that you're proposing supported by the brackets. And those are on both ends of the building, and it's underneath of the door. If you folks would like here, you can pass these around. Darcy, pass those down, please. And also, you see the windows are the same that you're proposing.
They're not the same.
They're not even close.
Absolutely not
Oh,
the same.
Not even close.
Okay, just so you're going to break up the windows, you're going to put.
The mutton bars, that's why we showed them that way. That's why our renderings indicate all the mutton
Well, your
bars and also the
renderings don't-
paneling.
On mine.
And those
don't come out that
canopies
way.
are not ours either.
So the other thing that, if you would stick with your porch overhang, I would vote for it in a heartbeat. The other thing that the porch does, it eliminates the need for any lighting on the side of the building because the
Yeah, we're
lighting is.
not going to go with a porch, so no point discussing it, Dan.
You're not going to go with a porch. Okay, well, then my vote's already made up.
Oh, thanks for your consideration.
You're welcome.
The
We made this-
windows-
We made this
the windows
consideration
we're
2 weeks ago,
proposing-
Bill. Oh, by the way, the McDonald picture, could I see that again, please? I'm glad that you've taken away the C and R on your other proposal, because this place also has a sculpture on the wall, which is what Mr. Riley said that was the last time. So in this particular case, it stands for McDonald's. Mr. Riley calls it a sculpture and not a sign or a letter, so before.
Due respect, sir, yes, we did call it a sculpture. We were also informed that it does count against our signage, and the partnership team has offered to eliminate that. That's
Very
why it's
good.
no
Thank
longer
you.
in the
But there
proposal.
was an argument about that before.
Actually, I'm sorry, sir, we weren't arguing. We were just,
Okay.
Yeah, also,
Steve.
it was not on the wall. So, Dan, you know, talk about apples and oranges. This is apples and watermelons is what you're proposing. You know, our windows are virtually identical to Delmar. You know, they're not like Wendy's and they're not like McDonald's. So take a look at them. We have a comparison sheet in there showing Delmar's windows.
Mr. Chairman.
so the,
Hold on a second.
Where's Delmar?
Thank you very much.
well, Delmar's window's right here. It's on A5.
So
A501.
my only other comment, the only thing you would have to do to this building that he's proposing is to put an M on the side, or Wendy's on the side, or anything else. It's like every other fast food. If someone came in later, the only thing they would have to do, if this was approved, the only thing anybody had to do that was moving into that building is put a different sign on it. That's all, and it would be a fast food joint. So anyway,
I
Steve?
don't, well, so I don't think that the fast food moniker fits our building at all.
Well,
This is
you
a
saw the
standalone
McDonald's
restaurant.
picture. Steve?
Well, I do notice that you changed the windows, and I appreciate that. I think it is a much
They were actually
better-
just more detail,
Right,
that's all.
and so I kind of like what you've done with that. I was a little disappointed when I opened the packet and I saw that the overhangs were still there until I got to page 5, and then I noticed that you had an option for a porch. I think we all sort of said last time that we were more in favor of the porch. You're saying it can't work or not easily done. But I think if I had my choice, it would certainly have the porch on the front, and that's something I would vote for pretty quickly. I don't like the overhangs. I like what you've done with the windows and the doors and everything else, but I just wish that we could come to some sort of compromise over the porch and the front of the building.
We're not going to put a porch in the front of the building. First of all, it's ugly. It doesn't match the building at all.
Okay?
You know, and the piling, the pillars that support it interfere with the operation of the restaurant. A significant portion of this, is outdoor dining, al fresco dining.
The other thing I'd like to add to that is the porch actually makes this building look more like a strip mall. This is intended to be a standalone restaurant. It's actually going to be a classy restaurant. It's not going to be a McDonald's. It's certainly not going to be a Wendy's. So I take umbrage to that comment. The canopy is an element that has historical precedent. Chantel, if you wouldn't mind, if you could. Number 6. So on the bottom of this plate, there are several historical buildings that have this type of canopy placed on it. It's the brackets can also be representative and reminiscent of some of the older star medallions that were on buildings. It's not, but there's a reference to that. You can make an argument. The support element is a very, very light tension rod. That's all it is. The profile of the canopy is about 8 inches tall. So if you look at the covering aspect of the porch versus this gives it more identity as a standalone building, which is a restaurant. I would argue that you can't put any moniker on this building and then all of a sudden the building would transform. And if it could, so what? If we're able to reuse our buildings with minimum modification, that's a benefit to all. It's certainly a benefit to our environment. This building is intended to be that gateway that we spoke of last time. The porch would do really a disservice to what we're trying to do, not only on the interruption of the serviceability for our restaurant, it would put all of those windows in a dark shadow. They would be non-existent. That would actually force us to put more lighting underneath just to bring presence to it. I don't think that that's what we want to do in our energy consciousness. The other, by putting those larger columns, and you would want to do those columns to scale and proportion, they're going to be too bulky for what we want to do there. And that would enable, that forces us to make the patios larger. It takes away from our parking, and our parking is completely satisfied, both our al fresco dining and our inside dining and our employees. So it has a ripple effect. And I think this, the time that we took putting this precedent study, if you really looked through it, we took some time to draw reference to these pieces that you could easily approve. Whether they're your personal taste or not, I can't help that. But this is not about personal taste. This is actually about what's important to the fabric of Chatham. We've drawn reference to actual buildings in Chatham for some of these elements. So I'm not agreeing with some of the negative feedback that we're getting. We're not doing anything damaging to this building. In fact, we're actually basically putting this building through a rebirth. It's been sitting there for decades in disrepair. These elements are meant to be scraped elements. They're very simple elements. By putting a looming porch over this thing, you're turning it into a strip mall. And then you're going to come back and we're going to have little signs for each individual kiosk. That's not what we're going for.
Would you call Max a strip mall? Max Seafood a strip mall?
Yes, sir, because it's part of a strip mall. If you look at the entirety of that building, Max is not the only occupant of that entire space, are they not?
Do their columns interfere with any type of service?
They have a completely different layout.
It is.
All their tables are outside of the porch area.
And hence the strip mall, because what
And they
that
have
is
more,
it's a
so it
colonnade.
doesn't interfere with their parking as it would with ours.
Bill, that's not our concern. Our concern is whether or not this building
Okay, I'll tell you
fits
what.
in the
I'll tell you what,
historic.
let's take a vote and we'll appeal it. How's that? Let's get going. You haven't asked anybody else their opinion.
We're working our way around. Darcy?
Yeah, I appreciate the changes that you've made, and I actually think that the windows are appropriate for the historic area.
Thank you.
I think they're fine. A question I have, though, in between the windows, is that going to be wooden framed, or could you possibly bring the brick around to that to make it? What I'm looking at is the gas station that used to be there.
Sure.
And it kind of replicates this. I have to disagree with my other two commissioners. I don't think it looks like a Wendy's or
Thank you.
McDonald's.
Thank you.
but-
It is brick. It is brick in between the windows. We're
Okay.
reclaiming the brick. Actually, Chantel, if you could kindly go to number 5, please. Or actually even number 7. That's fine, right there. So if I may, I know I'm away from the mic. This is brick.
Yep.
Well,
What I just pointed to was brick. Yeah, they lost the point to that. The tan color that you see, those are the wooden windows. In between those wooden windows are brick pilasters.
I was just looking at A5, and it looks like, it's all black. What about above the canopies? Is that going to be brick also?
It is, yes.
So I think that kind of brings it back to the historic
Agreed.
look of the building.
And that's what we did. So we try to preserve as many of the original openings that exist. And right now, there's an expansive storefront that's in the front. We're actually introducing brick in between that. So we're creating these new openings in the current brick, but we also want to restore the brick that's there.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sam?
Just don't touch anything.
Okay, don't touch it.
Well, I prefer the porch version. I think you've made the porch version, or you haven't studied it long enough, and you've left it as simply 1, 2, 3, 4 divisions, which is a very poor division. And you've made the columns oversized, bigger than they need to be. You've made them stone, so it's made, or is that brick? It looks like a stone base. It is stone. And I think you've sort of set it up to fail, rather than making it work to our advantage and to have it be what it could be. I think if you pair the columns on the ends, the way you did in one of the studies, you showed the columns closer together on the outside, the last two as a pair, and then divided it into, well, I have it as 4, but it might even divide into 5, and work the entrance in the center of one of those bays. In other words, you could
So
work
you're
on it.
dictating,
You work on-
you're dictating what we have to put on the front of the building. We have to have a porch roof, that's your dictation to us? You won't approve it any other way?
I'm just commenting on the version that you show in the,
No, I understand that, but what you're saying is, if we don't have a porch roof like that, you won't approve the design.
And
Is that
that's
what you're
his
saying?
right, Bill. This is the Historic Commission, and that's what his job is here.
I'm just asking.
I'm just saying that what's in,
So in other words, if we don't put a porch roof on it, you're going to deny it. You're going to vote against it.
Well, so far, that's what I see, yes.
Yeah, good. So you guys are, you're not the Historic Commission, you're the Design Commission. You can dictate how we have to build the building.
That's our purpose here. You should know that by now.
No, it's not your purpose to dictate how we do it. It's your dictate to assist us to make the building harmonious with other structures.
That's right, we're telling you to
And
put a
so,
porch on it.
I know, and so we have showed you how this building is harmonious with Delmar.
No, you're showing the windows
is
are.
not the model house or the model building in Chatham. It certainly doesn't represent what we're trying to make people make new entries in to be compatible with a colonial town.
The,
Bob?
Yeah, just a couple of things. The canopies, they're going to be, how far do they come out from the building?
only 2 feet.
2 feet, and what's the material?
So it's a wood frame.
Yeah.
And then the slats are actually going to be it's either going to be a lighter metal. We're talking with the partnership team. They actually want to use it as a true rain guard element. So they're going to be solid, where originally we were hoping to do some kind of a brise-soleil. We wanted to get some openness and get some light into there to create some light and shadow against the building. They want to have something a little bit more protective, so we're looking at a solid material.
So it's going to be wood frame,
Yes,
two
sir.
2 feet out, and then the solid material is going to be,
Inside the frame. It's not going to be visible. It'll be visible from underneath.
but what is it going to be, that material?
It's going to be a metal element. We just haven't picked it yet.
Okay.
If this alludes to it here, so it's a metal infill, and it's going to be a solid bottom, so we can get some lighting in there as well, some basically some.
So the
downlight.
frame is going to be wood? It's
Yes,
going to
sir.
be natural?
It'll be wood cladding over a metal frame. It'll be a steel frame.
Okay. It does look, with the porch, a little squatty, the building, so that's just my opinion. And the other thing I was thinking about is how can you break up that roof line?
Which one, the main one?
Yeah,
It's very
can you put a
difficult.
cupola, can you ever think about a cupola up there?
You know, we did look at that, but because there was one there at one point.
Yes, it was a good-sized one before it blew
Definitely.
down in the tornado. whatever we
Right,
had,
right,
yeah.
exactly. So I think that if we put a cupola on the building, certainly as we present this here today, It'll actually be a conflict of styles. You know, if we were to look at a Max or if we were to look at a CVS, you know, with that porch,
Right.
I would absolutely agree with you. But because we're doing a different canopy approach, it's basically a flat awning, for lack of a better term. I think it would conflict enough that it would look very strange on this building if we put a cupola.
What about a couple of faux dormers?
Architects don't like the term faux.
How about a faux gable, a faux gable up there?
You know, if, we actually looked at that as well.
Yeah, just something
We
to-
did look, because in due respect to the precedent that we did on the porches, we looked at 6 different schemes, and none of them looked good. I won't even say they looked okay. They didn't even look good. We looked at doing the porch on the front and then awnings along the side. We looked at doing, as you saw, the porch all the way around. It's just too looming, and it does take away from the character of the building. With respect to the expanse of the roof, it looks more ominous here in this presentation because of the way we position our camera than it actually is. Certainly, I won't ask you to look at the building today because we know what it looks like. I don't think you're going to notice the roof as much as you think, and I think you would notice it more if we put structure on top of it. And I think it would actually do a disservice for what we're trying to do here at the building.
Mr. Chairman?
Nope.
Yes, sir.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Tim has to speak.
Oh,
Jim?
well, I haven't finished.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't finished?
sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, okay, let's look at, I happen to favor the porch design.
Right.
And I think it can be worked to be lightened, lighter in weight, because it's quite heavy. But you seem to keep the frieze gets it gets interrupted on the corners with some dark material. I don't know why. The frieze, in my mind, wraps all the way around the building as one element, with the moldings that are on the bottom or on the top are retained. And you have that continuity that ties the building together tightly.
Except it's interrupted by a
And
coin.
you've introduced a colored square and a little diamond.
It's
Okay,
not a colored square.
That diamond is a little sculptural element, a little thing that you have introduced into the project because you think it needs to be gussied up in some way. I'd say it should be, if you want to emphasize the corner, that you just need to make that element proud of the frieze
It is.
elevation.
It actually is, sir.
I'm sure it is.
If you go to
but it's
8504
dark gray.
If you go to, it's not.
Why is it dark gray?
That's the rendering. That's just the rendering. It's going to be a white element as well. It's the shadowing of the rendering, the way it was presented. It's going to be the same color as the frieze.
That's not light induced, that's a color. I can read a drawing, and I'm telling you, that's not shadow induced, there are no 45-degree angles, there's no, okay. And then it seems to echo the sign. In the drawing, it echoes the sign color, the background of the sign color. And I don't understand why that's interrupted, because that's just part of your advertising, not part of the architecture of a Greek Revival gable-ended building. You have a Greek Revival gable, and there's nothing, both in the porch design and in your canopy design, there's nothing that calls for the frieze to be interrupted, in my mind. So I think you could lighten up the fascia of the porch. You could make the columns much slimmer. And you could play with the spacing of the columns to balance the facade better. I think your references to the canopy as some sort of precedent, all your versions show canopies that are in cities. And I don't see a single canopy in Chatham. And anyway, boards have consistently rejected applications that have called for precedences and called that certain things will be precedences in the future. They've rejected this because they want their judgments of a design as being compatible to be unique, to be on its own, to stand on its own basis and not say, well, they did this here or that there. So, and again, I state that Delmar is not our model in the town.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, if I could respond to some of those comments. With respect to the last comment that you made, you're right, we are trying to create a standalone project. We are doing referencing to architectural elements that you reference. Now, the frieze, if I may, the frieze does get interrupted at the corners, very typical to what would be if we had a coin detail. We're not introducing a corner coin detail, but you always, sir, you always interrupt the frieze if you have a corner element. That corner element sticks out from the frieze about 1/2 inch. So it is projected. All of the sculptural elements of the crown molding, the fascia piece, the crown molding are all against the backdrop of those two corner pieces on either side. So I would argue that it is historically correct to have something like that as an interruption of a frieze. It is, it is Greek revival. We've supported that. With respect to your columns, your comment on the columns, if we do a slender column, you would agree with me that the slender of the value of the column devalues the column itself. Those are proportioned to historical correctness. 1/3, 2/3 shaft base. Yes, the base is a stone element. We could do it as a brick, that's fine. If the board wants to do a brick, that's fine. It doesn't fit. What I'm arguing is that we did at least 6 schemes to try to make a porch work. If we narrow the porch, it does nothing more than what our canopy does. It throws the columns up against the building. To your point, there isn't sufficient rhythm that we can attach to the columns that would make that building look good, because we're trying to preserve the openings that are in that building now. All of our window placements are placed to the operation that's happening on the inside, as well as the views outside. You'll notice that the brick pilasters between each window are exactly the same. But because of the positioning and the use of the building, we're not allowed to put that rhythm that you're talking about, which we could in turn respond with columns. It just doesn't exist. There's no rhythm that allows that to occur. I wish there was, but there isn't. We've looked at it several different ways.
Can I answer this? The corner element is a metope that is out of Greek columns.
Yes, sir.
Greek temples, and it represents the end of the beam.
Yes, sir.
But you don't have any beam ends here in this building, and you only are emphasizing the corner. So it would have to be a regular thing consistent with the columns that you have out in front to be there. That's why I think you should eliminate them. They're just unnecessary distractions. Then you said something else. I can't remember what. I never suggested shortening the span of the porch, bringing the columns closer to the. I thought by making the columns slimmer, not straighter, you still have the curve the important curve on the straight columns, but that would give you more space for the 5 feet that you need for accessible access. So that's, I think, you know, you could construct a response to everything that's being said here. We suggested that you should have come for a preliminary meeting and you would get a sense of the board. And we made some suggestions for you to come back. You've tried to sell these canopies as something that is consistent with a Greek revival, an existing Greek revival building. I think you've tried to punch out the frieze and make it a little more important and then include it in your messaging. There's one overriding concern that the buildings here in Chatham are not going to be single self-expressions.
Jim?
I appreciate the effort of the applicant and the architect. However, I would state as a general concept that I appreciate the portico scheme, if we could make that work. I understand there's a lot of work involved with that structurally. However, also, one of the things that I haven't really heard about is I feel that when I look at this, it's dominated by the windows. And you referenced Delmar quite a bit. Delmar, I don't get that feeling when I look at Delmar. The windows are broken up. They don't dominate the wall. And in the case of this design, they do. I don't know if there's something we could do there. That's one of the biggest design issues that I have. When I look at the building, all I'm seeing is windows. And I look at Delmar, I just don't see that. And again, you referenced that quite a few times, and I appreciate that. But again, that's one of the things I'm looking at is the windows and just the overall scheme of the windows. But I'm sure there are ways to alleviate the windows dominating the entire aspect of the building. And again, while I appreciate the work that went into the canopy design, I would have to say I'd support the porticos if those were able to work. That's all I have.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So with respect to the windows, the reference to Delmar had mostly to do with the proportionality of their windows, not necessarily their spacing. As we discussed last time, I mean, Delmar's, all due respect to them, it's basically a revamped Friendly's, and Friendly's was very adamant with their rhythm and how they did their buildings. So they didn't change that. Our building, if you take a look at the original existing openings, we preserved every single original opening that's in the building. Not that you see it today because some have been boarded up. I would actually argue that we reduced the amount of glazing that currently exists in that building, because if you go from, I touched it again. If you take a look at where our entry door is and the two flanking windows, to the right of that is a brick pilaster that we've introduced. That's currently all glass from the left-hand window to the left of the door, all the way over to where the hand is. Actually, go to the right, Chantal, a little bit more. To that point. That's an existing opening, that entire expanse behind the plywood. I agree with it. We didn't want to, I mean, yes, there's a lot of glass, but it also responds to what we're doing inside. The front portion on the front left-hand corner of the building, that's a luncheon counter. So if you put people up against the wall, that's really not a comfortable seating element, right? The other thing is, one of the things this partnership team, they want to have their front of house, the rotisserie, they want that as an iconic element for this restaurant. They want to showcase that from the outside as well as you're approaching the building. But that's also where our outside window is, our pickup window for takeout is there. So that was important there as well. The light element in the prep area, that's really to generate more light into the kitchen area. But if we did an expanse of brick there, it would really throw all the balance of this building off, I believe. If you notice that we took the rhythm of the windows in the front, we carried it around to the left-hand side, because we have a service window for our bar on the upper corner, and then this other window has the aforementioned luncheon counter as well. So while I appreciate the fact that you think this is an expansive glass, we did try to break it up as best possible with some wall material. But given the fact of what's responding on the inside of that, we felt it would actually really kind of diminish what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring as much natural light. The more natural light we can bring in, the less of this stuff that we need. Granted, shoulder hours are different, but really trying to bring a lot of natural light into it to make it helpful. So,
Thank you, I appreciate that.
pleasure.
All righty, anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, can I ask one or two more?
What's that?
Can I ask one or two more? And
Yeah.
then, I think somewhere, I'm fine, I was gonna ask you why why the door was off-center, but you just explained it's because of the way things are set up inside, and that's fine.
Good.
One of the things that you said, I think earlier when we were speaking about the porch versus the overhangs, is that the porch would interfere with foot traffic. But I'm looking at page I guess it's A506. And to me, it looks like the tables are outside. They are not under the porch, they're outside of the porch area. So can you describe or explain how foot traffic would be affected?
Be happy to. So A505, we take a look at the plan. So you can see how the columns are arranged there. It's particularly on the left-hand side. We have the greatest impact for accessibility. We were only able to achieve a 3-foot narrow, we had to set that because that's the absolute minimum that we can have. We had to set our columns to that point. Even if we narrowed it up a few inches, that's not going to change that much. These columns are only a foot in the square. That's all they are. The bases are 16 inches, which is, again, typical column design. In the front section, yes, to your point, the 8 tables are outside of the porch element. It's really the negotiation of the servers coming through in and out of the doors, the front doors, to the service window, kind of navigating through all these tables. It forced us to take the tables and push them to the outer edge and scooch them together a bit more where we could actually spread them out. So they are disruptive in that regard. On the right-hand side is the queue for our waiting queue, our outside waiting queue. So obviously, there's, I guess they become a leaning element at that particular point. So they're less disruptive there to the tables, but that's just to give you the what we're hoping to do for orientation operation.
And if you were to make that sidewalk, the sidewalk on the right of the picture, if you were to make that wider to accommodate pedestrian traffic, I understand it would push the parking spaces out a little bit further. How much room is there between the parking spaces that are there along the building and I think you had some parking spaces also at the property line?
We do. I'm actually glad that you asked that question. If we can go back to that plan, please. The one that we were just on. So the right-hand side is predicated on what the left-hand side is doing. To all the elements that we talk about in terms of whether things are symmetrical. So the columns are actually symmetrical to the building, okay? In the sense that from the left-hand side of the building to the column grid is a dimension. We matched it on the right-hand side. To do otherwise would really throw the whole balance of the building off, I think. So we also looked at let the right-hand side dictate what the column grid is going to be. We eliminate those 4 tables because there's no way to get the tables. I shouldn't say no way. There's a way of getting less tables in there. It just kind of jumbles the whole organization there. So to try to keep that whole rhythm that we were trying to do, our access aisles, it just seemed to make sense to do that. We really don't want to change the parking because to do so would actually put absolute minimums in our aisle width between parking spaces. The partnership team is really concentrated on providing as much aisle space as possible between vehicles. We've all experienced people that have kind of lost sense of where they are. We don't want to have any incidents. So granted, they're 3 feet larger than what they need to be by local zoning. But we feel that that's going to be a benefit to everybody that goes here. So to take that away is actually doing a disservice. So we felt that that was more important there.
All right, thank you.
If I may respond to your comments. I don't think that a place has to be symmetrical at all. There aren't too many buildings in the town of Chatham that have, that go through the problem of making everything symmetrical. So anyways, I don't think that argument
Well,
fits.
the building is not symmetrical, sir. What I'm saying is the column spacing from the end of the building to the
Oh,
column.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
apologize.
just that,
Yeah,
because
okay.
if we take a look at this, this is basically an A-B-A-C rhythm building.
Okay.
So it's balanced, but it's not symmetrical.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, that floor layout that you have is almost identical to Max. So I don't think the door is a problem as far as that. Their takeout is right there. That's how they serve all the tables outside and everything else. It's the same way that you've got it.
But we're not trying to recreate Max. To that credit,
But
we're
you said it
trying
would be a
to,
problem if you have the porch out there. And I thought it was problematic if something was in your way.
what's problematic is the fact that the way Max's walkway is set up, it's a colonnade. Their seating is completely in front of the colonnade. We do not have the benefit of that. The columns are actually going to interrupt what we're trying to do in our al fresco dining. So again, that's a strip mall. That colonnade defines a strip mall. You see it everywhere. In Chatham, in Dennis, you see it everywhere. That's not the look of the building that we want. We don't want a strip mall. We have a single source element in this building, and we're just trying to showcase that. The canopy is not intended to reference Greek revival. That's not part of it. I agree with you. Canopies are not Greek revival. The elements that we put on the building are Greek revival. The canopy element is a referencing to the same porch that you like so much. We've just taken the roof off of it, but we've flattened the roof. We've created a rain element there. I don't appreciate the laughing in that regard, because it really, that part is not a laughable matter. That canopy creates a band. It's below our frieze. It's very light.
Well, sir, you've got no semblance of a Greek revival left with the canopy. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. So, and I know Mr. Riley's getting upset and he's getting impatient here, so.
I have something to say, I think probably
Yeah,
somebody
go ahead,
else does
Sam.
too. Have you been before the planning board yet?
Yes, we have, and they actually, we had our pre-application hearing, and it was unanimous. They love it.
Okay, was there anything discussed about the parking?
Yes.
It was not necessarily the parking, but the entrance and exit of the building, because we're tying into the town's plan. The town is going through, as you're probably aware, of a restructuring. So they're at 25%.
State.
The state, excuse me, the state, but.
Yeah,
but-
DOT has a
Got
25%
it.
plan
Yeah,
showing a bike lane and stuff. And so Andy Goddard, who's the traffic safety guy, Lieutenant Andy Goddard of the police department, commented, and we've talked about having the easterly entrance be right turn only, and the westerly entrance would have both right and left turns. That's what Andy,
Gonna be wider, too.
and be a little bit wider.
But it doesn't impact our parking, so the openings don't.
the other thing is that I think you're destroying the historic look of the building with a porch. Just because CVS has it, it's a totally different building. It still replicates the old gas station, the way you've designed it.
Agreed.
You know, maybe a little modification here and there, but I think the porch would totally destroy the look of the building.
Thank you.
Sam?
Yeah, speaking to this drawing here, could you tell me why the canopy aligns with the window on the left, but does not align with the window, that window on the right?
Absolutely. So if you notice that the leftmost canopy and the middle right canopy are exactly the same size, they match the window. Because the window that looks into the back of house, the kitchen area, is a narrower window, we can't have the same width window. We kept the canopy the same size because to change that would create too much of a disruption on the eye. So we opted to keep the canopy the same size, much like why we encompass both windows and the entry door under that width canopy. So the idea is to try to get them with the line with the brick. If we change the one on the right, I think it will change, but I'm indifferent to that. We can match up with the brick. I have no problem with that either, but
Well,
that was our reasoning.
I don't like, I don't like particularly the canopies. I think they are, they emphasize the windows with storefront trim, which I think is a modern adaptation. I would like to see more consistent window proportions. And then you adhere to the rule of equating the canopy with the window, and then you break it. You don't adhere to it. So it makes the whole inclusion of canopies into this composition somewhat suspect.
I
could you-
would match the width if you would prefer, I would match the width to the window opening. Again, you asked for the reasoning, that was the reasoning.
And, could you explain I think it was the plan, what the rectangle with the diagonal line is on the right-hand side of the building? What does that represent?
Oh, that's actually a ramp section. So that's a ramp section. So on the right-hand side, a ramp.
How much of a drop?
It's 1 in 20. It's intended to, our queue is coming on the right-hand side. We didn't want to drive all of our accessible access into the front. So by taking and softening the ramp on the right-hand side, being a 1 in 20, we can do that without railings or anything. So everybody can, it's a gentle slope that brings you from the parking lot grade up to our patio grade.
What is the difference in grade?
6 inches.
That whole thing is sloped for 6 inches?
So it's barely noticeable. That's the point.
You did it at 1 to 40, right? I mean, 40.
We haven't done our final
And
grades.
this is a ramp that people line up on?
Or enter into the space, or enter into the queue, yes, sir.
I don't see how that works. I mean, I'm not familiar with this type of takeout, rotisserie. People are at tables. I don't.
It's catering to all walks of life.
You said something about the door aligning with elements that are inside.
Yes, sir.
And you have those 9 lights, but they don't seem to relate to the 9 lights.
No, those are our
They don't seem to make us, and those circles are on the ceiling, aren't they?
They are not, sir. So what that is that's our indoor queue.
So you walk in the
That's-
door right into something that's at grade?
No, it's actually driving the traffic to the counter. So the counter's on the right-hand side. So these ribbon posts are very similar to what you see in any bank or something like that. It's intended, and Max has it too.
Oh, this is to make a line?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the door on the right is for exiting traffic. In theory, we know they're going to use both. On the left-hand side, you're entering in either
This-
going to the tables or
this
going
is,
into the bar seating.
Okay, well, people who are at that bar, is that a liquor bar?
Yes, sir. Well, beer and wine, sir.
What?
Beer and wine.
Beer and wine?
Yes, sir.
You don't have to call me sir.
My parents told me otherwise.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, or?
Yeah, just
Bob?
one more question. Below the windows, what is the material?
It's
Is that
wood.
Gonna be natural, not gonna be painted, it'll be natural?
That's correct. Our intention is to do like a Sickens or a
So it's
teak
gonna,
finish.
so the front will look natural?
Yes, sir. That's our intent.
Against the bricks, so the
Yes, sir.
bricks will be red, okay. How far would the canopies come out 2 feet? How far would the porch come out?
Please don't quote me on it, but I believe I think we set that to about 4 feet, 4 to 5 feet to the column line, and then it stuck out another foot for the overhang, so we could do the beam and the detailing for that.
And there'll be no tables under that?
We have to nestle the tables around, so that's where the jumbling came into play. So They are going to be arranged, so if you see like the upper two tables on the left-hand side, the columns there, so that table's gonna be encumbered by it. And again, we didn't really set this up to fail, we actually set this up to succeed. And that was the attempt and why we did so many schemes, but I didn't wanna bore you with the 6 or 7 schemes that we did because we couldn't get it to work. If I brought it in as a 2-foot overhang, a continuous porch canopy, maybe that would work, but it doesn't take away from that freeze line and the interruption of the porch. I mean, as it is, the slope of the roof, we had to modify in order to get the freeze to come through, so.
So I have a question for you in general. So we're not going to do a porch roof. So sorry about that. So understanding that, what suggestions do you have? As Darcy, no, I'm not done yet, Dan. Keeping in mind what Darcy said, that, that we're losing the historical quality of the building by putting a porch roof on it. So understanding that there won't be a porch roof, what suggestions would you have for us? Just any ideas at all that we can discuss with our clients?
Bob?
Do you ever consider taking the building down and starting from scratch?
No.
Nobody, because they're not, just brick, that's all it is.
Well, it's a little bit more than that.
Really?
To your point, there's a little bit more. Our structural engineer has gone through the building with us. The roof is in good shape. It needs patching from when the old cupola came down. But other than that, we have to do some front, back lateral bracing.
All right, so it's worth it to,
I believe so.
Okay.
It's salvageable. And then to the earlier point, I'm trying to preserve whatever energy is in that building and trying to preserve it rather than just throw it into a landfill.
okay, thanks.
To Bill's question, I would try to make it look as much like a Greek revival as possible, and Greek revival certainly had porches around them, the one at the top of the hill, with, what is the name of that little diamond square in the
Dan,
middle of
I
town?
understand they have porches around them. I lived in a Greek revival house here with a front porch for 30 years, so I know about Greek revivals and porches. We're not going to have a porch. So what I'm saying is, what suggestions, if any, would you have for this building, which is not a Greek revival building, it's a garage, Ben Goodspeed's garage, we all loved old Ben. What suggestions would you have that don't include a porch? I mean, canopy over the door, maybe a canvas canopy over the door, like an awning over the door? All right, just thought I'd ask.
No. Unfortunately, I just want to, two things. I think Bob's about ready to make a motion. But anyways, I just want to remind the whole committee here that we're voting to decide whether the proposed, if you do vote on this, to approve this, that you're approving everything in here, the colors, the shapes, everything, the lighting.
Yeah, we'd like to continue the meeting, come back maybe in a month.
Okay, then we'll, okay. And the other is that it is not, we do not have to take into consideration how much it inconveniences an applicant to have to do something a particular way. So we're here simply to just determine whether the proposed design works in the historic district, whether it improves it or it detracts from it, that's it. So,
Can I just add to that?
sure.
I think we all have to decide, do we like it, or is it part of the historic district? It's not what we like, it's what is appropriate for the area.
I
It's
thought I
it.
said that. Okay.
Well, I had to say it because
Do you want us to take a poll, Bill?
Why?
No, take a poll.
Oh, okay, take a poll.
Take a poll.
Okay. Jim?
I wouldn't approve this plan.
Okay, Bob?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Sam?
I think if they're not going to do a porch, they have to do something that that is consistent with a frieze that goes around the building. So if they could get something that goes part way, maybe has some breaks in it in some way, not a break that is an absence of the corners, but something that denotes where the entrance is, something that.
Okay, but at this time, would you vote for it the way it
And
is,
it's
Sam?
consistent with the other trim that's in the building, not made yellow to make it different, and then something else up there, and then something in there to make it different, is to make it come together as a whole. That is the goal here. That's what the building cries for. It doesn't need canopies, arches, M's, C's and R's and diamonds and little gimcracks like that. I think that's disturbing. I'd like to see the windows have a little thicker, thicker frame elements. So those are the things that I
Okay, so
think.
what would your vote be? No at this time?
I would vote no.
Okay, Darcy?
I would be in favor of it.
Well, if the only option is the canopy option, then I would probably vote no.
And I would vote no as well, so that would be no vote. You want it to vote officially?
No,
I just told you we want a continuance.
we'll continue. We just wanted to
You
pull.
didn't hear that?
Yes, we heard that.
Okay, good.
What's that?
So-
You want to continue it?
Want to make
Yeah,
a
to your
motion to
next meeting.
continue it?
Before we close this, can I ask a question, and perhaps this is, maybe this is a good in-between. What if we replaced the canopy elements with awnings, with cloth awnings that match the window openings? Because that's what we would, if that's something amenable to the board, we would come back with that. Where we could do, and we could also do something that fits into the model, the darker green that matches our umbrella, so it all ties together. We're not proposing to put any sign elements on the awnings at all. The sign will be defined in the frieze as it is now. We'll tone the colors so it doesn't look as contrasting. I have no problem taking the frieze and then wrapping the frieze without coin elements on the corners. I have no problem with that at all. We know how to miter.
Okay, one other suggestion, if I might. Right now, as Darcy says, it's an old garage, but garages had a lot more detail to them than that. There's no corner boards on there that I can see. That would help a lot to break up the hard brick corner that
It's a
makes it
brick
look like
corner.
all the rest of them.
They're existing brick. I don't want to interrupt the brick. I mean, why introduce corner boards where none are really called for? It's not that I'm against corner boards, but right now we have a tied together tooth brick corner. Why disrupt that with another element? If it were in total disrepair, I would consider it. I don't think it needs it though, because I think it's one more bulky element. If we're trying to keep the design simple, with respect to mutton bars, we can increase the mutton bar width to get a bulkier feel of the window. That's fine. But if we want to stay true to the Greek revival, you don't have to have corner boards in order for that to succeed.
I think no, right now you just have hard corners that look like every fast food store, every brick bank, everything. Corner boards are two boards on each side, that's it. And you'd have a feature that would soften the whole look of it.
I'd be happy to consider it.
You would
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Generally, the brick Greek revival had coins at the bottom.
Right, they
Correct.
just, yeah.
They had coins.
But that was
they-
something,
Because
Sam.
because the white board would be a huge distraction, and you'd have to make it like a 1 foot,
Right.
1 foot column, a 1
Well,
foot.
let's see what it looks like.
Well, as a
You said-
pilaster,
yeah,
so,
let's see what it
no,
looks
to
like.
Councilmember's point, if we were to do coins, I would do them out of brick, so they almost disappear. But that would be really destructive to the building to try to do that. So,
I agree.
And wooden coins would just come apart on you, so.
well, if I did the wood, I wouldn't do coins on a wood pilaster, on a corner board like that. I wouldn't do that. I would do a slight relief just to kind of break the surface a little bit. I would do a base element that's proportional. It also tie back into our windows, so that whole facade.
Oh, that
At that
would work.
point, I might introduce a water table to tie it all together, but
That-
now we're getting a little bit into colonial versus Greek revival, so, you
That's
know.
all right, it doesn't look like, it doesn't, that would be fine.
But I don't want to create a unicorn, though. I'm trying not to, you know, because
Well,
then you would argue styles.
I know you have in your mind what you want, and as I said, have told the commissioners here, our job is to decide whether it's appropriate or not, so I think that's, your two suggestions were just great, to soften that hard look of everything up there, that's great, really do. I know
be
you
happy
got
to
some,
look
I
at-
know you got some room down below the windows there, but, you know, if you had a, you know, water table, yeah, sure, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Yeah, look at
Whether
it,
we
yeah.
present it, I don't know.
All
I'll
right.
be
So your
fair.
continuance, Chantel, our next meeting?
Next meeting is June 21st.
Okay,
After that, we have July 5th or July 19th. So how much time?
The June,
do you,
the
July?
June meeting.
June 21st?
Yeah, we'll pull it
Yeah.
up.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion for a continuance on additions, alterations, 23-054-859 Main Street LLC, care of JFF Design, application to remove the existing structure, to renovate the existing structure. Oh, I slid at 859
Well, we know what
Main
you want
Street.
now.
I was thinking about it.
Can you kindly repeat that, Bob? I want to get notes. Can you repeat that, please?
Bob has had his point of view made very,
Darcy Sequin, second the motion.
okay, motion is made and seconded. Steve?
Steve DeBoer votes to approve.
Tim?
Tim Gilmore votes to continue and approve.
Bob?
Bob Burns votes to continue.
Sam Stryver
Darcy?
approves the announcement.
Darcy Sequin votes to approve.
And Dan Silva votes to approve as well. Thank you, folks.
Thank you all for your time.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
we
Thank
have
you.
one more, Bob.
We do?
Yeah, anybody want to adjourn?
Oh.
Do somebody-
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Who's going to second it?
Bob Burns, second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Tim?
Tim Gilmore approves.
Bob?
Bob Burns approves.
Sam?
Sam Stryver approves.
Darcy?
Darcy Sequin approves.
Steve?
Steve DeBoer votes to approve.
Dan Silva approves. And how about Sarah and Chantel, do you approve? Okay. Unanimous.
It is 6:08 PM and we are adjourned.